You ever hear something so small, so subtle, that it changes the way you see your entire home? That happened to me about 5 years ago, and to this day, I still can't sleep with the blinds open. It was late September, the kind of night where the wind isn't strong, but the air has that faint bite to it. I was in my small rental house just outside of town. It wasn't fancy. 2 bedrooms, a creaky old porch, and a backyard that sloped into a thin patch of woods. I had just made some tea and sat down in the living room with the lamp on. You know those quiet nights where everything feels peaceful? That's exactly how it was. Soft hum of the fridge in the background, the occasional car passing on the road out front. Comfortable. Safe. I remember glancing at the window beside the couch. The blinds were drawn halfway, and outside, the porch light barely reached the edge of the yard. Beyond that, just darkness, black, still, and empty. Or so I thought. Around midnight, I got up to head to bed. I was halfway through the hallway when I heard it. A faint tap, like a fingernail against glass. I froze. It came again. Tap, tap, tap. It was coming from the living room window. Now, I'm not the type to immediately panic. My first thought? A branch from the old oak tree outside had come loose in the wind. But there was no wind, and that tree wasn't anywhere near the window. I stepped back into the living room, every floorboard creaking louder than I remembered. The tapping stopped. I looked at the window. The blinds were still halfway down, hiding most of the glass. I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. I even smiled a little, shaking my head at my own jumpiness. That's when I saw it, a sliver of movement just behind the blinds, a pale curve, almost like a forehead pressed to the glass. I didn't move. I couldn't. My mind was scrambling for some logical explanation. Maybe the neighbor, maybe someone lost. But my neighbors were over 100 feet away, and who presses their face right up against someone's window at midnight? I took one slow step back, and the face slid out of view like they'd crouched down. I didn't go near the window. I didn't even breathe too loudly. Instead, I went to my bedroom, locked the door, and called 911. The police came quickly. I guess living in a small town has some benefits. 2 officers searched the yard, the porch, even the woods at the back. Nothing. Not a single footprint in the damp soil. One officer told me it was probably just a prank, but the way he avoided looking at the window told me he didn't believe that either. The next night, I made sure every curtain was shut tight. I left the porch light on all night, but around 1 a.m., it happened again. The tap. 3 soft, deliberate knocks against the glass. I didn't check this time, didn't even move. I just sat there in bed, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it was shaking the mattress. It went on for minutes. Knock, pause, knock, and then silence. It became a routine. Every 2 or 3 nights, always past midnight, always the same soft tapping at that one living room window. I stopped inviting friends over. I barely slept. And the worst part? There were never footprints. Ever. The last night it happened, I finally broke. I sat in the dark, waiting. No TV, no lights. Just me in the armchair across from the window. And at 12:48 a.m., it came. Tap, tap, tap. I stayed still, and slowly, so slowly, I lifted the edge of the blinds with my finger. There she was, a woman. Pale skin, dark stringy hair, wearing what looked like a faded nightgown. Her face was inches from mine, but her eyes were wrong, wide open, but clouded, unfocused. Like she wasn't really looking at me, but through me. She smiled, and I swear to God, her teeth were black. Before I could react, her face dropped out of sight again. I didn't sleep that night. I moved out 2 days later. And every so often, when I drive past that old house, I glance at the window. The blinds are always halfway down, and sometimes, just sometimes, I think I see a pale face behind them. I've always been the kind of person who finds peace in nature. Hiking trails, fishing by the river, camping. I loved it. At least I did before that night. It was early October, and I decided to spend the weekend camping in the state park. The forecast was clear, the air crisp, and the leaves were just starting to turn that deep orange. Perfect. I picked a campsite about 2 miles off the main road. It was quiet, secluded, and had just enough of a clearing to see the stars at night. By sunset, I had the tent up, a small fire going, and dinner cooking in the pan. It was peaceful, the kind of peace that makes you feel like the rest of the world doesn't exist. Around 9 p.m., I was sitting by the fire sipping coffee when I heard it, a voice. It was faint, almost a whisper, coming from somewhere in the trees. At first I thought I'd imagined it, just the wind catching the leaves, but then it came again. Help me. It was a woman's voice, weak, shaky. I grabbed my flashlight and called out, "Hello? You okay?" No answer, just the sound of leaves rustling. I told myself someone might have gotten lost. Maybe they'd wandered off the main trail. So, like an idiot, I decided to check it out. The beam of my flashlight cut through the trees, but the further I went, the quieter everything became. No crickets, no wind, just that heavy, empty silence. I was about 50 feet from my campsite when I heard it again. Closer this time. Help me. My gut started to twist. Something about the way it sounded, it wasn't right. It was too steady, like someone repeating the same recording over and over. I called out again, "Where are you? Do you need help?" Nothing. Then, a faint crunch of leaves directly to my left. I swung the flashlight toward the sound. The beam landed on a tree trunk, and behind it, something moved. It was quick, just a flicker of pale skin before it slipped out of sight. I don't know why I kept walking. Curiosity? Stupidity? But every step I took, the voice followed, always just far enough ahead that I couldn't see who it was. Then I noticed something. The voice was getting clearer, not louder, clearer, like it wasn't coming from far away anymore, like it was right next to my ear. "Help me!" I spun around. No one there. That's when I decided I'd had enough. I turned back toward camp. But when I stepped into the clearing, my tent was gone. Not collapsed, not torn apart, gone. The fire was still burning, my backpack still sitting beside the log, but the tent vanished. I was frozen, trying to make sense of it when I heard a twig snap behind me. I turned slowly, and there, standing just at the edge of the firelight, was a woman, or at least something that looked like a woman. She was barefoot. Her hair hung in wet clumps over her face. Her arms were limp at her sides, and her head tilted slowly, unnaturally, like she was trying to understand what I was. "Help me," she said again, but her lips didn't move. I backed up, heart slamming in my chest, and grabbed my backpack. The moment I turned to run, the voice changed. It wasn't pleading anymore. It was angry. "Don't leave!" It was loud, deafening. I ran. I didn't care if I tripped, if I dropped anything. I just ran until I saw the faint glow of the ranger station's porch light through the trees. The rangers searched the area with me that night. They found my tent about 30 yards from camp, fully set up like it had been moved there deliberately, but no tracks, no signs of anyone else. One of the rangers, an older guy, pulled me aside as I was leaving. He told me quietly, "If you hear voices in these woods, don't answer. Just get out." I haven't been camping since.